Hello Flight Simmers, Weeper here, and I am the Viper Simmer. Today we're going to talk about ramp starts. Ever since, as long as I can remember, I'm dating myself here, but probably back since the E-Razor builds, I believe it was, when we were first given the ability to shut down our engine, and then moving on to the super packs where we could start to manipulate all the avionics and systems in the jet. I've always been absolutely fascinated with ramp starts. As a matter of fact, in the 3,000, what am I at now? I think I'm at 3,037 hours in Falcon BMS now. I can honestly say probably 98% of the time I've always started with a ramp start, and provided I didn't get shut down as well. Absolutely love that. It's probably one of the best things I like about flying in the sim. Obviously, with a cockpit like this, you're probably saying, well, of course, why wouldn't you? But for the longest time, for years and years and years, the old tracker and mouse, moving my head around, clicking everything, just absolutely loved it. Another thing I like about ramp starts, when you think about the complicated missions we fly in Falcon 4 BMS, it's kind of a good way to get into that zone, kind of get that mindset to really start concentrating on the thousands of things that we have to do to perform our missions. When you look at a cockpit layout such as this, a Block 50 F-16, there's literally hundreds of switches that we have to manipulate, sensors that we have to warm up, we have to bit test, we have to do everything in a systematical order. So having a checklist is a great tool. I got my hands on a real F-16 Block 52 checklist from the Hellneck Air Force. I made a few modifications to this since I am flying a Block 50. And it is a great tool to have to learn everything until you develop your flow. So let's get right into it. I'm going to put on a special camera. Hopefully I can give you a point of view, and I'll show you how I go through my ramp start.
Lights on. Okay, knock it off. Okay, so we're going to start off. First thing we're going to do is we're going to close our canopy. We're going to close our spider here to activate all the seals. We're going to go around to our air source panel, and we're going to our air condition panel, and we're going to move our air source to norm. And we're going to go to our exterior lights, master on, anti-collision on, wing and tail on, fuselage on, and we're going to keep it into steady. We're going to move up to our fuel panel, and we're going to move our engine feed to norm. And then electric panel, we're going to move our switch to battery. Okay. Now we're starting to see some lights come to life here. We're going to go over to our test panel in the back, and we're going to run our flickers test, and making sure those lights switch out of the relays. That's good. Going to move our electric switch here to main power. We're going to go to the JFS panel, and we're going to run start 2. Okay. Now in this part here, what we want to do is want to watch our RPM, and we want to see our RPM go to 20%. And we also want to keep an eye on the secondary light. I don't know if this will focus on that, but the secondary light right here. I can't really focus on that, but either way, once that light extinguishes, that's probably your best cue to advance our throttle to idle, giving it some fuel. If we go too early, we could initiate a hot start. It gets too hot. Okay, so there it is. Going to move our throttle to idle. And what we're going to want to do here is watch our F-tit, most importantly. Make sure it's not climbing too high. And everything is looking good. Okay, and now everything's starting to come to life here. Okay, so as soon as the engine's up and running, RPM is of 70%. Going to want to check our hydraulic pressure, make sure those A and B are at 3,500, and we want to check our oil pressure, make sure that is usually at about 7 o'clock is good. like it's about 39 right now. Okay, we're going to go over to our test panel. We're going to go to our probe heat. We're going to want to push that up and hold it. Sorry, down and hold it. And we want to make sure our probe heat caution light is illuminating, flashing. We're going to move up above it to our engine overheat. And we're going to want to make sure that we have overheat on our caution panel and engine fire on our eyebrow light. Fortunately, you can't see that right there. And of course, master caution is on. Okay, now we're going to go to our jet start panel and we're going to switch our engine mode to secondary. Okay, nozzle position will advance to 0. From here, what we're going to want to do is first we're going to have a look up, look left and right. We're going to make sure our crew is where they should be. I guess they'd be standing up there somewhere where we can see them, out of the way. And then we're going to toe brakes in and snap our throttle all the way to mill power. When it gets to 85%, we snap her all the way back, making sure that our nozzle position is still in 0 and our secondary light is still on. Okay, we're going to disengage that. When we turn that off, our secondary light will turn off and our nozzle position will move back up to where it normally sits at about 90-something%. Okay, now we're going to go to our EPU switch. We're going to make sure that is off. Then we're going to signal our ground crew to pull the pin, and at that time we're going to put our hands up in the glare shield, making sure we don't touch any of our controls. I should give it about 30 seconds for that. So they expose themselves from underneath the jet and they give us the hand signal that they're clear. We're now going to put our switch back to norm. Go over to our oxygen panel. And we're going to switch to 100% oxygen. Now we're going to go toe brakes in. We're going to advance our throttle to just past 10%. Go to our test panel. We're going to run our EPU gen switch. When we do, we're waiting for our EPU light. We wait about 3-4 seconds to make sure everything is good. Then we release and we return the throttle all the way back. Now we're going to go to our fuel panel here, so our fuel quantity select, and we're going to run through each stage of our tanks here, and we're going to see what our needles are reading. Try to put this in a position where you can read it. First thing is we're going to go to test. We're going to make sure both our forward and aft fuel low indicator lights are illuminating, which they are. You can't read it because it's digital, but our digits there will read 6,000 pounds. Our needles will set just before 2,000. Okay, then we go to reservoirs. Both needles should come down to 5. Go to interior wing. Both needles go to about 550. Exterior wings. Both needles will climb back up to 25. Then we're going to go to our exterior center line, which should go to 0 since I'm not carrying any. Basically, what you're doing is going through each of these and make sure your fuel readings are all accurate as per whatever you're carrying. Okay, so that's good. We're going to go to our avionics power now and turn our MMC on, our store station, MFD, upfront control, our map. We're going to skip that link because we don't have it in this block. We're going to go to GPS and INS. We're going to push it in and turn it to norm. Okay, and we're going to go to our HUD panel and select that as required. Go to our sensor panel and turn our hard points on, left and right, FCR on, radar alternator standby. And we're going to go to our HUD here. Now I'm going to turn that on, and I'm going to switch this to white. It's not a realistic HUD color, but we can see it in the video much better. Okay, then we're going to go to our threat warning indicator, and we're going to power that up, and we're going to run a bit test on that. Making sure that is running. Bit test on our ECM is working. Okay, and then we're going to go to CMDS panel. Turn that to standby, jammer on, radar warning receiver on, chaff on, flare on. CM panel. Switch that to on. This is a specific Greek model, so yours will probably look different. And we can cycle that, make sure that our pod is transmitting, and that looks good. Go to our aux comm, move our INF switch to standby, CNI to upfront control. Audio 2 panel, we're going to set our COM 1 and COM 2 volumes as required. Master UHF, we're going to turn it to Bose so we can hear guard if somebody's calling. Check our guard channel's good. Go through your presets. Make sure those are tuned properly. Run a display test here. Get it, there we go. Looks good. I'm going to go back to normal here. Or sorry, manual. Okay, so everything's up and running. Now we just want to configure everything here. So, I'm going to go to our data entry page here, data cartridge page, sorry, and we're going to hit load. We're going to load up those pages. That takes a couple seconds to load in. Okay, I'm going to go to our test page. Normally you might have some faults there, but we're just going to want to clear those out. Verify on your PFLD display, make sure that is clear. Now we're just going to run through our bits. While that's running in the background, I like to jump on this page, speed things up, and we're just going to kind of start setting this stuff up here. So I'm going to set our selective jettison so I can drop just my wing tank should I need to. TFR, I'll set it up for my land test. Continue back on this side, run a bit on our INS. Our MFDS. Target pod. And as we are carrying the nav pods, we're going to run our FLIR bit tests as well. TFR. Go to bit 2 page. And since we tested our nav pod, we'll go ahead and get that to standby. Start cooling that down. Upfront controls. Now, of course, anyone in BMS knows that most of this stuff is not really functional. It just does a little 5-second light test, basically simulating a bid test, but I would imagine in real life a pilot would be going through all this just to make sure everything's good to go. Part of their pre-flight. Go CMDS. We're going to skip mids and blocker here. Back to bit 1. Now we're going to go to our FLICUS page, and we're going to enter memory location number 6. Okay, now from here, the ground crew would now be signaling us to move our surfaces to make sure hydraulic lines don't have any air bubbles or anything, and that everything is free and clear. So stick forward, stick rear, stick left, right, circle to the right, circle to the left, left rudder, right rudder, right to left, left to right. Looks good. I'm going to go to our air brake indicator, and we're going to extend our brakes, make sure that's working. And then we're going to retract them, make sure that works. It's good. I'm going to go to our FLICUS control panel here, so our flight control, and we're going to run a bit test on that. That's doing an auto bit test on the surfaces. Now, while that's working in the background, we're going to go through our DED page here, try to set that so we can focus on it. Basically, what we want to do is set COM 1 to ground, COM 2 to 15, that's our intra-flight channel. I like having the winds on. I'm going to go to IFF here, and we're going to turn our mode 4 reply to audible. Go to our interrogator page, and we're going to couple that up. I like going to line of sight, and I like clearing off everything but a mode 4 search. Okay, and as well, we're going to turn off our Charlie mode Sierra. That looks pretty good. Go to our bingo page, we'll set our bingo, we'll say 4500 should be good. And we go through our target pod at this point, make sure our code is set, and that we are in combat or training mode, which is, we're not really worrying about that for this mission. Bullseye, I'm just going to leave that off. And anything else you want to check, but that's usually about the most common pages I deal with. Actually, we'll go to our ALO, sorry, and we will set that to 11,000 for our MSL.
Mustang 7-1, contact tower for takeoff.
And that's still running in the background. Okay, go back to our bit page and we see our bit is passed. Now we're just going to clear that out. And we're going to go to our FCR page and go on target hits 4 on, and we're going to go on 2 for that one. Okay, and now what we're going to do is go to simulate mode here. Now we're just going to run through any of my tones for my missiles. So here's my heaters. We're going to want to warm those up, get a tone. Then we'll uncage it. I'll adjust the volume how I like it. That sounds pretty good. And we'll cool those down again. Go to medium range missile, and we're just going to set that mode to Twiz.
Jericho 4-1, contact tower for takeoff. Switch 3640.
They're already default at medium, so we'll leave that at medium. Go to control here, change our ID to number 2, and then we'll run all bit tests on each missile. That's clear. We'll go out of there, and then we'll go to air-to-ground mode. And then, you'd set up whatever you're doing there. However you're planning on dropping your ordnance. Switch that to target pod, and that's good for now. We'll finish up that at the IP before we fence in. And go back to master arm off. Back to nav mode. Okay. Cycle this to HSD, that looks good. Now from here, what we do now is kind of finish up everything else. So we'll go to our clock here, we'll give that a few windings. Whatever we feel is good, we'll check our time. Our current time is 8 o'clock, we'll say. A little bit behind schedule here. It's going to move that to 8 o'clock. You can hack that if you want. You can turn it on for now. Go to our manual pitch override, we signal our ground crew that we want to test that. So, can't do this with one hand on the camera, but what we do is hold the override in, and then you put full stick forward. They would signal to you that reflected down as far as it should, and then you will release this, do it again, make sure that it's back in override, in norm mode, sorry. Okay, go to our fuel panel. Open up our fuel door, and angle this so you can see it. And by hitting the missile step on our stick, we will go through a cycle and bit test on that. That looks good. Turn that back off. Digital backup. Just make sure that's engaged. That looks good. Then we turn our trim AP switch to disconnect. Really hard to do that, but from here you'd move your trim switch, watch those needles, make sure they are not moving. Then when you switch it back to norm, you of course would make sure all your needles, your pitch, and your roll are centered, or adjust your roll depending on any sort of asymmetric load that you would have loaded up. And lastly, go to our test panel, and we're just going to hit the oxygen test. Okay, and we're just going to run through that. That looks good. You can see our INS is ready. So we'll go back to our avionics power switch, turn our INS to nav, and then check your coordinates. Make sure everything looks good. Check our system accuracy is indicating high, which it always has for about the last 12 years, I guess. Okay, and then we are pretty pretty much good to go. We're going to signal the ground crew that we're good. And tell them to remove the chocks. Put our hands up here, make sure we're not touching anything while they're underneath. Okay. Switch our lights to flash. Gauge nose wheel steering. Now we're just going to jump on ATIS here. It's 133.5.
Temperature,
There we go.
19 degrees Celsius. Altimeter, 2978 inches.
2978, so adjust our altimeter here. 2978.
Kosan. Information Hotel. Runway 26. Expect visual approach. Wind, 294 degrees, 02 knots, gusts 04. Visibility 10 kilometers or more. Sky conditions, no significant clouds. Temperature, 19 degrees Celsius. Altimeter, 2978 inches.
Okay. So now that we have all our information, we're ready to call for taxi clearance here. Ground Cobra 6, 2F-16s, ready to taxi with Gulf.
Good morning, Cobra 6. You are number 3 for departure. Taxi, Charlie, and then hold short, runway 26.
Taxi Charlie and hold at 26 for Cobra 6. Okay, so first thing we're going to want to do is want to put our toe brakes in, get our park and brake off, and we're going to want to throttle up to about 80%. Just make sure our brakes are holding, which they are. Then we just want to release and give them a couple pumps.
Jericho 41.
Everything looks pretty good.
For takeoff. Switch 36440.
So again, when we're taxiing, we're going to want to keep her under 25 knots, and anything in the turns, you want to keep her, anywhere under 10 knots. And now we're going to set up in the arming area and do a leak check. You're going to set a park and brake, ends up on the glare shield here, and we're just going to let them do their thing. When I'm doing this, I usually give it about a minute. It's good enough for me to simulate it. we're getting a signal from the ground crew that we're good. So we're going to go park and break off. Taxi out in position here, holding at 26.
Cobra 6-1, contact tower for takeoff. Switch 36440.
36440, Cobra 6. 2 push button 3.
2.
Another one tower here, and we set a threshold.
Wing 290 at 1 knots, runway 26. You're cleared for takeoff.
We don't want to put our radar altimeter on, turn our radar on, probe heat on, IFF to norm, arm up our seat, and now we're good to go. We're going to call tower here. Angelos Tower, Cobra 6, ready for departure.
Cobra 6, hold short.
Hold it short, Cobra 6.
Contact departure. Cobra 6, position and hold, runway 26.
Position hold 26, Cobra 6. Everybody looks clear. And while we're waiting, now's a good time to do another scan from left to right. Make sure everything looks good. Pull up that 161.
Cobra 6, wing 290 at 1 knots, runway 26. You're cleared for takeoff.
Air 26, Cobra 6. Okay, now we're going to put our brakes in, run our throttle up to 80%. Have one last check at our hydraulic pressure and oil pressure and F-tip. Everything looks good. We're going to advance our throttle to full mil power and release the brakes. Now we're watching our fuel flow. We want to see that settle up. Another scan of the gauges, they look good, and we're going burner. Those wheels steering off before 70 knots. And as we're rolling down the runway here, I want to have another scan of their gauges. Everything looks good. We're looking for 161. There it is. We're going to pull up. Okay, the positive climb, gear up. We want to keep her under 340 knots here while we're joining up.
Cobra 6-1, contact departure.
Push the departure for Cobra 6. Push button 4.
2.
Angelos departure, Cobra 6, 2 F-16s, climbing 2000.
Cobra 6, departure, fly heading 240. Resume on navigation.
240, resume on navigation, Cobra 6. Okay, so there we have it. I don't exactly want to call this a tutorial. Remember to refer to the manuals as they have a lot more detail than what I presented here. This is more for entertainment purposes and showing my cockpit off and how I do things. So, again, I'm always looking to improve my flying, so if you have any suggestions or comments on what you think I might be doing wrong, feel free to comment and we'll talk about it. Otherwise, I hope you enjoy the video and we'll catch you on the next one.